Testing.
Army. Sorry we missed you. If you have a donation of clothing, furniture, or house...
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Goodbye.
Blog Talk Radio. You're listening to Next Gen Conservative Radio.
You have entered the analysis zone, a place where political correctness is non-existent. Critical thinking is required and conservative common sense reigns supreme. This is the Whitfield analysis, and now, here is your host, Sam Whitfield.
Morning glory and evening grace, America. Sam Whitfield here, broadcasting live on Next Generation Conservative Radio via Blog Talk Radio. This is the Whitfield analysis. And again, I've just got to steal Hugh Hewitt's opening catchphrase. Sorry, Hugh. I respect you. Imitation is the serious form of flattery. So, without further ado, morning glory and evening grace, America, as I said. Tonight, I have a very special guest coming on to the program tonight. Guy P. Benson is joining me. He is a columnist and a writer for townhall.com. And he's part of what the younger generation of conservatives, such as myself. He's a couple years older than I am. But I'm I feel very fortunate to have him on the show. He's on the switchboard. But before I bring him on, just a couple useful contact info things. If you would like to get a hold of me at any time during the show, after my interview with Mr. Benson, the number to call in is 714-816-4740. You can email me by going to my website, theanalysisnow.wordpress.com, and follow me on Twitter at samw_NGC. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on my guest, Mr. Benson. Mr. Benson, thank you for your time, and welcome to the Whitfield Analysis.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So first, thanks for being here again. So first of all, can you tell me in the audience a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing?
Sure, yeah. So it's interesting, during the little introduction you did there, you mentioned that I'm just a few years older than you, and I wish that were true, but you're in high school, right?
Yeah, I'm a senior in high school.
Okay, so it's been, 9 years since I was a senior in high school. So I'm 27. I live and work in the Washington, D.C. area. As you mentioned, at townhall.com. I'm the political editor over there. I also host a radio show, which just aired in Washington, got off the air about half an hour ago, or check that, about an hour and a half ago at this point. It airs Sunday nights, and then I also do some guest spots on shows like Hugh Hewitt's, and I know you're familiar with him, and some TV stuff. So definitely busy during this home stretch of the campaign, and probably won't be getting all that much sleep until roughly November 7th.
Well, it's funny because I sent out a tweet. Hugh Hewitt tweets 24 hours a day, And so I tweeted at him. He and I follow each other, and I said, "Wow, you're still up." And I think it was Dwayne Patterson or someone tweeted back at me, Hugh never sleeps. None of us conservatives do during this home stretch as long as Obama's in the White House."
Well, Hugh is unbelievable. I've gotten to know him over the last, 5 years or so. He's been just a great friend and mentor, and there have been a few instances where I've gone out to California with some regularity to guest host his show, and occasionally he and I overlap when he's on his way out of town or back into town, and he really doesn't sleep very much. He, takes little naps throughout the day. He'll sleep for, an hour, and then he'll be up, and then, 9 hours later, he'll go to bed for, 2 or 3 hours, and he gets up. And then he's a talk show host on a nationally syndicated show. He is a columnist for 2 different websites. He blogs just a prodigious amount. He's a prolific blogger, and he teaches law school, and he's a practicing attorney, and he does the speaking circuit. I am completely exhausted by his schedule. And
Yeah.
he's in his 50s. I'm in my 20s.
Well, yeah, I'm just exhausted about hearing about it. But I've met him as well, and he's just an outstanding guy. But anyway,
Yep.
One of the topics that I know, basically, all of the political commentators are talking about. I want to get your opinion on a couple of issues. First of all, all the major polling outlets suggest that Barack Obama is ahead in most of the major swing states, but I believe that is just that the polling out there is massively manipulated by the leftist MSM, the mainstream media, and that it's not true. And so, what's your whole take? First of all, how are the conservatives winning the battle? Do you think they're winning the battle? And second of all, what can conservatives do to not only win in November, but win big?
Well, I think we're not going to probably win big. I'd be very surprised if we win big this year. I think it's going to be a very close election one way or the other. And rather than giving you my personal opinion, I think it's maybe more useful to describe an experience I had last week. About a week ago, I had the privilege of going up to Boston and spending a good chunk of time at Romney campaign headquarters. And they were kind enough to allow me to sit down and chat with their polling director and their political director and sort of walk through where they see the campaign at the moment. And not too much has changed since then, based on the polling data that I've seen publicly. And I think the sense that they have is that the race is extremely close on a national level, as we've seen in Rasmussen and Gallup now for weeks, with a few exceptions where there were bumps here or there generally for Obama. He's gotten the bumps and then it settles back down. And then in terms of these swing states, I think that Romney they have a sense that Romney is ahead in a few of them, like Indiana and Missouri and North Carolina is close, but I think they're feeling pretty good about that. Then I think that we're looking at an extremely tight race in places like Florida and Colorado and Iowa, New Hampshire maybe a little tiny bit less so. Florida very, very close. And then there's a couple states where I think they would concede that at the moment they are slightly behind, 2 or 3 points behind Obama in Virginia and Ohio. And I think that is roughly where the race stands at the moment. We see the Romney campaign gearing up for a major bus tour throughout Ohio. I think they're going to do 6 or 7 rallies between the two candidates, Romney and Ryan, in Ohio this coming week, and try to really inundate that state with ads. They've got a lot of money to spend that they've been sort of keeping up with and putting into their coffers throughout the the whole FEC thing where they had to wait until they could spend their general election money. It's this sort of complex Byzantine system. But the point is now they have a cash advantage. And I think they're going to try to really bombard Ohioans and Virginians and Floridians in some of these states with a major message heading down the stretch. We, of course, have the debates. And so I guess the short answer to your question, after my more in-depth analysis there, is it is very close. Romney might be a hair behind, but when it comes to what should conservatives do, the answer is work their butts off, recognize that this is a very close election, and it'll probably boil down, as it often does, to turnout. And if you sit back and let the media tell you that it's all over and try to discourage you, which is absolutely the case here, that is the goal, Democrats and their friends in the media, is to make people like you and me feel like there's no chance. And so why bother? Why bother to hit the streets? Why bother to make phone calls? Why bother to volunteer? And in some cases, maybe why even bother to show up and vote? That is what they are hoping they can engender among conservatives, and it is absolutely our duty to resist it because, A, we need to vote, and it's extremely important, and B, the idea that this election is over is just absolutely not true.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Now, a couple of my Twitter followers and whatnot who I follow have PM'd me, and this is a very interesting topic. Do you think this whole incident that happened with the Benghazi embassy will affect the election? People are saying that this may hurt Obama, and other people are saying that this may have no effect, and there are a whole bunch of different opinions. Do you think that any of these incidents that have happened in the last couple of weeks will affect the election?
Well,
and if so, how?
I think that they absolutely. I think they absolutely should. I think we have 4 U.S. embassies breached, our consulate in Benghazi totally overrun, our ambassador assassinated in the line of duty, the first time that's happened in 30 years. It's become very clear that there was woefully inadequate security at the Benghazi consulate, that there were warnings ahead of time, there was an attack attempt in June, there were all sorts of red flags that were ignored, and then we had a full week of the administration telling us that this was a spontaneous protest, when in fact all of the evidence, as reported even by the mainstream press, is that this was a premeditated, carefully planned terrorist attack, and the administration was just flat out lying to the public for a week. So in a sane world, this would be a very significant development on the presidential front. But I think, as you and your listeners have witnessed, when everything was at first unfolding, the media was totally fixated on Mitt Romney's statement about the Cairo embassy's statement that they put out, which turned out to be totally vindicated, and the White House turned out echoing Mitt Romney's criticisms eventually. But there was 2 full days of we're focusing on Mitt Romney for some reason, as we have an ambassador dead. And then this past week, as the extent of the mendacity and the cover-up became clear, the political press was obsessed with the 47% tape that came out of Mitt Romney. So I think that it is breaking through to some extent. I think that the public needs to hear, for example, Sam, that this week the UN is meeting, and there's leaders coming in from all over the world. The president has decided that he's not going to meet with any of them. Benjamin Netanyahu had requested a meeting, which was denied. The president has decided that his schedule is just too packed to meet with these foreign leaders. But he will be appearing on The View with Whoopi Goldberg, which is interesting, and I think it gives an idea of what his priorities are. I mean, he said on Univision last week that his number 1 priority is keeping diplomats and embassies safe, and then when he has a chance to meet with the leaders of Middle Eastern nations responsible for the safety of our embassies, he's taking a pass, going on the campaign trail, raising funds for his campaign, and chatting with Joy Behar. I mean, I think it shows exactly where his priorities lie. All
right, sir, I know you have lots of stuff to do, and I know we're running a little short on time for the interview, but one last question: where can we find you again? You mentioned that you have a radio show that you just started.
Yeah, well, the show actually is now. Gosh, I started it in early 2008, so it's been going for about 4 years. It aired initially only in Chicago, where I was living. Now it airs both in Chicago and Washington, D.C. People can go to GuyBensonShow.com, but most of my work appears at townhall.com, particularly on the tip sheet. That's where I spend a lot of time doing writing and analysis. And the best way to keep track of what I'm thinking, writing, and where I'll be appearing on TV or whatever is on Twitter, at Guy P. Benson.
And I follow you, and hopefully you can follow me back. So thank you for your time. One last question about the radio show, though. I recently tried. I don't know if this is your deal or if you need to talk to one of your staff members or what, but I recently tried subscribing to the show via iTunes, and for some reason, no episodes in the feed will show up.
Yeah, the podcast, it's a long story. The podcast is and has been for several months unavailable, which is just a straight-up manpower staffing issue that we would love to deal with at some point. It's just, at the moment, difficult. So, unfortunately, if you don't catch it live these days, it's not going to be available on iTunes or on the podcast, but hopefully we'll be able to rectify that at some point in the future.
All right, sir, thank you very much for your time, and I'll be in contact with you. All right, thank you.
Sure. Terrific. Bye.
Bye. All right, folks, so that was Guy P. Benson. You can follow him on townhall.com at Guy P. Benson. So, and at GuyPBensonShow.com. Really, just an outstanding guy. He really is. And let me go back to the camera. So, folks, now the lines are open for you to call in. The telephone number, if you want to call into the program, again, is 714-816-4740. And the email, you can contact me by going to theanalysisnow.wordpress.com and following me there. Or, I'm sorry, emailing me there. What am I saying? So that was a very interesting analysis by Mr. Benson. And, folks, I think it's very true what he's stating on a couple fronts. Especially with this whole Benghazi raid. I mean, over the past couple weeks, folks, we have seen blatant disregard, blatant lies, and just I think it's personally I think some of the stuff that Obama has done in the past couple weeks, it's incredible that this election is not tipping full scale for Romney. I'm surprised it's this close. Well, I'm not that surprised, but in the world of common sense, which is where Guy Benson, Hugh Hewitt, and I, and a whole bunch of other conservative commentators live, we live in the world of common sense, folks, as I know a lot of you listeners out there do too. And it's amazing to me that Obama's dismissing this thing as an act of hatred. Oh, that YouTube video went out. Well, as I discussed last week with Tamara Jackson, my last guest, I'm pretty sure that that's a load of bunk. Because that video, folks, and I'm not even sure if it's on YouTube anymore. I've tried looking for that. I can't find it. So if anyone can find it, could you please email it to me? The Tribbles have my personal NGC email address. So if any of you guys know it, please send it to me. If any of you guys in the audience know, email me at theanalysisnow.wordpress.com. And please email me that video. I'd like to see it. I seriously would. I'll play it back on this show. But as I was saying, it just... I think that this president, it's amazing. It's baffling. He keeps revealing his true... He keeps showing his true self. Now that we're in the final stretch of his hopefully first and hopefully only term, we're starting to see the real Barack Obama come out. He is anti-business. He is anti-Israel, as we've seen many times from his refusal to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu multiple times. And I mean, he was comparing the work that he was comparing people at the embassy that were killed and their hard work to the hard work of his re-election campaign. It's baffling. I'm almost not sure how to comprehend that. That it's just so inappropriate. And I don't know. Folks, we just have to win this election. That's all there is to it. We have no other choice at this point. And as Guy said, this is going to be a very close election. There's no doubt in my mind anymore about that. It is going to be close. But we will win. The American people have woken up. And last night, folks, I posted an article to my blog, to the blog portion of the Analysis Now, that talks about the conservative movement's use of Web 2.0 technology and social media. I'm calling this movement Conservative 2.0. Now, I've been going on and on for years about how much conservatives need to get involved in social media. Twitter, Facebook, Google+, etc., etc. I talked about that with Tamara Jackson, and a lot of people listened to that and started asking more questions about, well, why is it so important that conservatives get involved? And I've been asked that question for years, since 2010, when I started Whitfield Nation on Blog Talk Radio. Of course, I've been podcasting since 2008, much like Guy has. And like I said, I mean, podcasting, blogging, it's changed everything for the conservatives. It really has. We're not the same, folks. We truly aren't. But folks, it's time to get involved. Well, it's not time. It's been time. If you're not already involved, then you need to get on the bandwagon now. We're running out of time. This is going to be a close election, and we need all hands on deck. So I really appreciate, again, Mr. Benson coming on to the program today. A couple of announcements. Again, I've written a few new blog posts. I also, folks, I've been meaning to tell you about this for the past couple weeks. But my blog has been distributed. I now have 2 distributors, 2 who have been distributing my blog posts on their blog. The first is Rambo of Brand. I'm now reposting my blog post on his site, which is the nopcradio.com, I think. And then second, my column is also going to be redistributed here soon on tribblenews.com. And also in the works, folks, I have plans to, Trevor Johnson and I have been talking really quite in depth for a long time now, and we are thinking that we're going to put all of our blogs together and start a web-based magazine for Next Gen Conservative. All it's going to do is put all of our blog feeds together, but that's what we're going to do. Anyway, folks, it's about that time for me to sign off. Again, I really appreciate all the listens today. Don't forget to follow Guy at Guy P. Benson and go to his website, which is GuyBensonShow.com. You can email him there. That's how I found him. He's a great guy. And next week I should be on my own. I know I said that this week I was going to be solo, but now that I've had Guy on my show, now I think I'm done having guests on for a couple weeks. But who knows? We're going to have a couple more guests on before the election. But anyway, stay tuned for updates from my blog, from my Twitter, and folks, from all of us here at Next Gen Conservative Radio, have a great week. God bless you. God bless America. I'll see you back in the studio. Same time, same place, same day, next Sunday. Alright, folks. God bless. God bless America. Good night.